The Barbados Water Authority has proposed several cost-cutting measures to save the jobs of 300 workers there. Among them, cutting overtime and double pay on weekends and asking members to give up allowances. The proposals were discussed at a meeting with hundreds of BWA workers this morning at Solidarity House. Those talks lasted for close to 3 hours, following which BWU General Secretary Sir Roy Trotman told reporters every little bit counts. Sir Roy also wants cuts at the BWA to start from the level of its board. The union head says workers cannot be the only ones to make sacrifices.
The management are management workers, and we have asked them to make sacrifices from entertainment allowance to driver's allowance to ensuring that somebody who gets one allowance does not double bank that with getting another allowance. We have asked them to look at things like the leave that they would take. We've also called on the board itself to say that the board should make sacrifices along the lines I've told you.
Sir Roy says once those measures are implemented, the jobs of the workers should be secure.
Some of the people who are already at the Water Authority are close to retirement, and we would expect that over the next year or so there will be some attrition. We will expect that Water Authority will have an ongoing program involving hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, originally it was billions of dollars. So what we are endeavoring to do is to be sure that we so structure our work over the foreseeable future that we would not find ourselves rushing hither and thither and yon, not knowing where we are going.
The jobs of the 3,000 public sector workers could have been saved if all public sector employees had agreed to a voluntary pay cut. However, Minister of Labour, Senator Dr. Esther Bayers-Sekou, says the law will not allow this, nor will the proposal receive support from the opposition Barbados Labour Party. Voluntary pay cuts was among the many suggestions put forward by the unions in the negotiations with government in a bid to save thousands of jobs.
Of course, because the legislation was changed, it would require a constitutional amendment, and I've heard the opposition, who were the ones who put it in place anyhow, they're not going to recant. So we're not going to be able to do a voluntary pay cut. Even if the workers themselves say, even if all the workers in government say we will take a pay cut, government can't break the law. The law would have to be changed, and we do not have the support of the opposition on that. So it means the only other way to cut government's wages bill, which is the largest of our bills, the only way to cut government's wages bills right now is to send home workers.
Senator Bayers-Sekou is the latest government minister to speak out against suggestions that people take to the streets in protest. The Labour minister says at this point such marches will only arouse anger, and that is not needed.
Our society is not one that needs to burn tires and throw and break windows and so on to have our voices heard. The voices have been heard. I do not agree with those persons who have been saying that the trade unions have let down the workers. I've been sitting in the room with the trade unions. They have not let down the workers. They put everything on the table. They went all out to make sure that we could do whatever to save jobs.
And the departure of Sir Roy Trotman and Dennis Clark from the Barbados Workers' Union and the National Union of Public Workers respectively does not signal the demise of the two unions. That's the view of the Labour Minister. Sir Roy is to leave his post as General Secretary of the BWU in August, and it was recently announced that Mr. Clark will be retiring at the end of October. Mr. Clark has been with the NUPW for the past 40 years, the last 5 of which he has spent as General Secretary. Senator Bayers-Sekou says the two men are formidable leaders, and she welcomed the opportunity for new and younger leadership.
From what I have seen of both union leaders, it is clear that they have been able to pass on a lot of their knowledge within their institutions as well. And I'm sure that they are going to be available as well, to be called on to give advice. I don't think that they're going to be sequestered by any means. I can't see either of those gentlemen being sequestered. I know they will always keep their eyes and ears open, and they will probably proffer advice, but certainly I'm sure they'll be available if you know, the others do need them.
The services provided by the island's telecommunications providers are to be regulated. Minister of Industry, International Business, Commerce and Small Business Development, Donald Innes, says this is critical as Barbados develops a more level playing field.
Hold service providers to account and address interrelationship issues that affect pricing. And to that end, I wish to announce this evening that work is very much on the way to have the Fair Trading Commission take responsibility for regulating the services provided by all licensed telecom providers in Barbados. Currently, we do not do that.
Mr. Innes was speaking at a cocktail reception on the roof deck of the Lime Grove Lifestyle Centre in St. James. It was in celebration of online publication Barbados Today's 4th anniversary. He said efforts are on to reduce the price of bandwidth on the island.
Over the last week, I've met with the heads of 2 of the major telecommunication providers on matters related to faster speed, more reliable service, and a wider range of services in this sector. And I assume they will soon announce some plans that they have to address these issues.
Barbados expects to see improvements in the British and Canadian tourist markets this year. The US market, however, will likely prove to be a challenge for officials. However, Minister of Tourism Richard Seeley remains confident that 2014 will be a good one for the island. Mr. Seeley made the comments at the boardwalk at St. Lawrence Gap in Christchurch.
It is up so far on last year, but we do know that there are challenges. But in that respect, let me just say, and you would have heard this from the Governor of the Central Bank in his reports, that the value added in tourism has actually improved, even though you're getting less visitors. And I mean, that is a point that isn't often mentioned, and I think it's a significant point. And it reflects our decision to try to focus on families, as you were hearing earlier. Also try to get people coming out of markets who tend to spend greater. The improvements out of continental Europe have contributed to that significantly. The Brazilians and the Latin American tourists tend to spend more as well.
Mr. Seeley says efforts are on to measure the contribution of tourism to the Barbados economy through the Tourism Satellite Accounting Program.
The Barbados Statistical Service is working with the Ministry of Tourism on it. It is part of a regional project that is joint between the Caribbean Tourism Organization and the Inter-American Development Bank, and we hope that with a proper tourism satellite accounting regime, we can more effectively measure those contributions, which to my mind is very important and often understated, and we tend to get bogged down in the numbers part of it solely in terms of people coming here.
Prime Minister Frendel Stewart is the newest member of the Queen's Privy Council. Appointments to the Privy Council are for life. Former leaders Owen Arthur and Sir Lord Erskine Sandiford were also named members in 1995 and 1989 respectively. Membership of the Privy Council entitles members to be called the Right Honourable. A gun seizure by police has netted not only high-powered weaponry but also resulted in 2 people being held by police. Earlier today, detectives executed a search warrant at a house in Bridgetown and found 2 Tech 9s and 1.9mm automatic along with a quantity of ammunition. And earlier this week, lawmen held and searched a man who was a person of interest and found a .22 automatic in his possession. This is the first major gun seizure for the year. Last year, lawmen took just over 70 illegal guns off the roads. A call tonight for government to consider easing the pressure on vendors. It came from opposition leader Mia Mottley during the latest People's Assembly hosted by the Barbados Labour Party. Lisa Broom has more.
The opposition took its People's Assemblies back to the south of the island last night, this time addressing party supporters at the St. Christopher Primary. Leader Mia Mottley says she expects many of the soon-to-be retrenched workers to look toward vending, and she wants government to ease its stance on this type of entrepreneurship by introducing civil penalties in that sector.
We are prepared to support any amendment to the legislation in Parliament that will remove the criminal conviction from vending in this country at the very time when people are going to have to resort to vending as their primary source of legal income.
And Opposition Senator Wilfred Abrams says government's issues with implementation have started to affect the court system.
The court system is in trouble, but that's because, like everything else, there's no implementation. Nothing is being implemented at the courts. The problems are there. The problems were there for the last 6 years. They were there forever. They know what the problems are. Nobody is doing anything, but yet they're pointing it out. But this has effect on Barbados as a place to do business. No, look at our court system. No business is going to come here. When you have a problem and a follow-up with a contract, what can happen?
Lisa Broom, CBC News.
Career planning is important for secondary school students, and with this in mind, the National Career Showcase has been launched. President of the Association of Guidance Counsellors, Janice Jammett, made those remarks at a media launch after receiving sponsorship checks. She's asking that 3rd and 5th form students prepare for the showcase to be able to make the most out of it.
The Barbados Association of Guidance Counsellors believes that sound education involves the development of the whole student. This includes social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical aspects of the student's life. We believe that it is vital to ensure that all of our students are knowledgeable about their career plans. Different aspects of career planning programs exist in our secondary schools. We administer career tests, the most common being the Career Key and the Holland Self-Directed Search, interest inventories, and career clusters.
The shortcomings of the educational system have been highlighted by a representative of the Caribbean Development Bank, Ann Thompson. She adds that the showcase will help overcome those challenges.
There are challenges in the school system that contribute to the issue of youth unemployment. For example, the curriculum is still very academically inclined, resulting in a mismatch between school curricula and demands of the economy. There's the inability of the curriculum to address the needs of the range of abilities in the system, as the curriculum still appears to be geared towards addressing the needs of high flyers. High dropout rates at the secondary level, especially by males, who appear not to be in tune with the curriculum being offered.
The second meeting of the Regional Reparations Commission gets underway in a matter of days in Barbados. The January 27th to 28th meeting will be attended by representatives of 8 national committees established when CARICOM agreed to pursue the matter of reparations for slavery and native genocide. The Barbados meeting will discuss matters pertinent to taking the work of the Regional Reparations Commission to the next CARICOM Heads of Government Conference next month in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados is making strides in tapping into the animation industry. To date, 24 persons have benefited from training in animation, and Minister of Industry, International Business, Commerce and Small Business Development, Donville Innes, expects the island will be able to benefit more from the multi-billion-dollar industry.
Discussions with overseas companies to have such done in Barbados is indeed at an advanced stage, and we are committed to training at least 70 animators in Barbados in short order. We have a goal of earning at least $10 million in foreign exchange by year 2 of this project.
The Jamaican fashion designer to many dancehall stars, including Vybz Kartel, has Barbados in mind for his next business venture. Calvin Hay, popularly known as Mooney, says he'd like to have both his clothing line, Half a Moon Designs and Calvin Hay, in stores by the end of the year. The designer, who also owns the record label Half Moon Records, has already begun discussions with Barbadian fashion designers and local merchants to devise the best possible collaborations. Mr. Hay says poor economic conditions in any country should never hinder creativity or entrepreneurship.
You have to keep it going because, you know, you can't really complain about the recession and the time. You just have to make yourself comfortable and do what you have to do, you understand? Yeah, when you start to lean back and start to say the system, you have to just do what you're doing. Time is hard, but you're just doing what you're doing, you understand? At the end of the day, you will benefit from it.
Hay was among the 5 men jointly charged with Vybz Kartel for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams. However, he was freed of those charges last November after prosecution said it found no evidence against him. Mr. Hay says Kartel has been a close friend for about 15 years, as well as a business partner and client. He says the entertainer is in good spirits and is coping well in prison.
everything is okay now because I was there and we was close together and in dialogue, and I understand the system, you understand? So right now, we always keep in touch, you understand? So I know that I'm in good spirit and I know he's okay, you understand?
There has been continued assurance from the People's Republic of China that a rich relationship will be maintained with the Barbados government. The ambassador to Barbados, Wang Kei, who paid a courtesy call to General Manager of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, Rod London, reminds that the countries have already enjoyed 30 years of friendship. The Chinese television stations, CCTV and the CBC, have collaborated on several projects and cultural exchanges, including a Chinese documentary showcasing Barbadian culture. And Ambassador Kei hopes to strengthen ties between the two television stations during her term. The diplomat says the embassy will continue working with government in areas of economy, trade, culture and education, as outlined by Prime Minister Frundle Stewart and Chinese President Xi Jinping last year.
They have made a consensus on further developing the bilateral relations and cooperation in various fields, especially in tourism, in agriculture, in new energy, which that important meeting, provide a great impetus to our bilateral relations. So the embassy is working with the Barbadian governments to do the follow-up action.